What's up, everybody? Troy Cartwright here. Welcome back to another episode of 10-Year Town. Before we get started, do us a favor. Go to 10yeartown.com and join our community. Just means you put in your email address, but it helps us out a ton and helps us reach you in the future if we do some live events, stuff like that. Anyway, love you. Thanks. Today's guest is artist and songwriter Ryan Beaver. You know Ryan from hit songs like Pretty Little Poison, recorded by Warren Zeiders, and a song called Vegas, which was recently recorded by Midland, and many, many more. In this episode, we discuss Ryan's journey from getting his start as a touring artist in Texas, and then moving to Nashville and building a life and a community. I think this episode perfectly encapsulates what 10-Year Town is all about. I love this guy, and I love this episode. So without further ado, here he is, Ryan Beaver.
Yeah, so there's stories behind all the little things, like the Prevo stickers.
So for context, if this stays in, this is I bought Ryan's old
touring van,
Chevy Express 1500.
The Starship Beaver Prize.
Yes, it's a beautiful machine. It's been very good to me.
Yeah, it's a great van. It got us up and down the road many years.
Oh yeah, but please continue.
We used to show up to these festivals and shows, and we would be, in a van and trailer.
Yeah,
as you do, as one does.
Right.
And we would park next to all the buses in the bus lot. So at some point, a Prevo sticker was added on the front.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that would walk up and be like, man, I didn't know Chevy had a Prevo. I didn't know they made that. I was like, yeah, they're pretty awesome. You should see it.
Yeah, see the inside.
And then one time we were broken down outside of like off Route 66, and we had to kill time. And so we ended up at a Walmart, and bought the
PA system.
The PA, I guess it's like it had a mic, so it was a PA system, but it also made all these animal noises.
Yeah.
And there's the microphone under the hood. So if you wanted a rooster or a cat, we would just hit them with it. So we'd be in the middle of New York City and meow, and everybody be looking around, So that was fun.
Yeah.
Entertainment. The entertainers need to entertain themselves at times.
Especially on the road, dude. You're just killing time.
Yeah.
That's most of it.
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Is the game.
Ben, are we happy with all the levels here? All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, man. I always start this thing off with the same question, which is, how long have you been in town?
That's a good question. I moved here June the 3rd, 2013 to live in Nashville full time to make music. I started coming to Nashville in 2009.
Okay.
And I would do trips back and forth. I would stay a few days,
Gotcha.
Try to check out the town, maybe go to some shows,
maybe
meet some writers. I met some people early on, got hooked up with a few co-writes, and then I would come to town to do those and then go back, because at that point I was touring as much as I could.
Yeah.
So I was playing all over, wherever,
What was your first, like my first introduction to Nashville was, I don't know if you remember Angela Lampton, radio promoter.
Yes.
But she was like, I know this guy, Jake Geary. You should meet him. So I was like, okay.
So he was one of the first guys you met?
He was the first guy I met.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. In fact, I wrote at Seagull last week, and I was like, dang, that's this office right here started it all.
I was on a text and email thread with him today, so he's still doing it.
Dude,
it's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was your, I don't know, your gateway to Nashville? Was it a Texas connection or?
Yeah, I think I was around a lot of people who said, hey, you're pretty good at writing songs, but you should be in Nashville as much as possible, or try co-writing, because I was writing everything by myself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get better and learn and get connected, but it's so hard to know where to start.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I had played a South by Southwest event, and so a couple of people from Nashville saw me play. and hit me up, and I gave them a record, sent them a record, and then I ended up with a few co-writes. So between people like BMI set me up with a few co-writes, which was awesome of them.
Yeah.
The first few people I wrote with were Neil Medley, who I just wrote with today. So
yeah, beautiful.
Still doing it. Brent Cobb.
Yeah.
And I got together at a room at BMI. Wow. We didn't even have a room to write in. Like, we were both just out of towners trying to figure it out. And then Danny Flowers, who was a female artist and who's actually still playing, and she's in a band now. I can't remember the name of the band, but she's great. And so those were the first three people that I sort of co-wrote with. And then some other people kind of linked me up. Courtney Chris heard me on the radio in Austin and then hit me up online and was happy to, listen to more songs and give me her input and then set me up with some people. So you're making fans. I think that's the name of this entire business. No matter what you do, just make fans.
Yeah.
And then little by little, I started to get into the writing community. So that was around 2009, 2010. And then I still was in Austin making the trips back and forth. And then in 2012, I made the decision to be here full time and give it a year or two.
Yeah.
See what that was like. Not give writing a year or two, but just see what it was like to be here all the time.
Yeah.
And I moved here June the 3rd, 2013, and I've been here ever since. So what is that? June makes 11 years or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't do math. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
12.
24. Yeah.
So, yeah, a little over, but it's been a good 12 years. So,
did you take to co-writing like at the first time you really did it? Were you like, oh, okay, this is it?
No,
or did you
not
hate
really.
It?
I didn't hate it, but the only thing I knew to do is bring in pieces of things that I was working on.
Yeah.
Or sections, or this could be a chorus, or
yeah,
because you don't have the trust and you don't know people very well. It's like a bunch of first dates.
Right.
So you want to offer something. So I would be like, well, I've written this thing and this thing and this thing. And then you would jump in and try to work on it together. Or maybe they would share something with you. But it took me a minute to figure out how that relationship, works. And I think I'm still trying to figure out that relationship. But but it's been good. It's been really good.
It's trust. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. When I look at my calendar and it's a bunch of people I've written with, a bunch of songs with, like it makes me feel good because I know I can I'll look a month in advance and be like, oh, cool. Well, I got this title. I'm going to save that for this, right?
Totally.
Because I trust, I've written this way with this guy a bunch of times.
Yeah. And you kind of get a sense for who would know what to do with that.
Or, absolutely.
Or would like to try with. So,
was there a big, because I also started my career in Texas, and I started mine in Dallas.
Yep.
Where there was a small music community for sure, but not any sort of co-writing community. There just wasn't a lot of like set in place infrastructure.
Sure.
Was that different in Austin, or was it similar?
It was similar. I mean, Ben Danaher, who was a guy that was out doing it, playing shows, and I loved his songs. And so he and I would get together and maybe do a co-write. That happened. I don't really remember exactly when that started happening, but I want to say 2010, 11, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And there were a few people that I knew that did it, but not many.
Yeah.
So it was hard to find somebody that was willing to get up and go to work,
Yeah.
Treat it like job.
Right.
There were always late night jams. Usually those didn't really turn into much. But every now and then, they were fun.
Yeah. When you had this whole when you started out, this whole kind of the start of your career was in Texas doing like I guess you call it the Texas country thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Playing, honky tonks and dance halls and probably supporting some shows for
anybody. No, it was great. I mean, the thing that they've always had is their own little world of, we support independent music.
Yeah.
We just support if we like you, we're in. We'll come watch you. We'll buy your merch. And that world existing like it has between like Texas, Oklahoma, and then the surrounding states, it was huge. I mean, that was something I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
I mean, we all just want to feel like we belong somewhere. So that was a great world to jump into. And the fact that we could play dance halls and beer joints, honky tonks, clubs. I mean, we did it all. Like we would just fields, festivals, rivers, wherever there was music happening, we were doing it. But there also was that ecosystem that supported that.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that they were taking a risk and saying, all right, we'll put this kid on for $250 or whatever for your whole band to open. I mean, everybody was just happy to be in there and doing it. And then you're just hoping that you can sort of grow what you're doing enough to get to a point where it's self-sustaining.
Right. Yeah.
But it was awesome. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm really grateful for it. Without it, I don't think I'm here at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Same, man. I mean, it gave me my start. It gave me the confidence that I was like, you know, when you first get started, man, you're always wondering like, am I kidding myself?
Oh, I mean,
and I still think that sometimes.
It's real. It's, I think I had a little bit of a awareness enough to ask some other people around me, like, hey, are these songs any good?
Yeah.
Should I quit?
Yeah.
Is there something here? Could I keep going? And I would send my little demos that I recorded like in a college apartment or whatever to people that I respected. And so I heard back from so many people. Like I heard from Walt Wilkins. I heard from Bruce Robison. I heard from Lloyd Maines, who was producing a lot of records and still is amazing artist, instrumentalist himself. So to get their feedback was huge. And then Lloyd ended up connecting me with a guy named David Grissom, who's a great guitar player. And David and I got together for a weekend and talked music. And then I showed him some songs. He showed me some records, some stuff he played on. And then we began to work on my first record in like the summer of 2007.
Wow.
So that was years ago. And then I had a couple of, it was just enough to go, okay.
Yeah.
I think I could do this.
Yeah.
The pride, the hubris to think we could all do this. It's comical. But man, you need that. You need that support. And also no one sold me any big lies. It was like, look, man, make some music, buy a van, find a band, get a gig.
That's it.
Like, that's it. And then just do that a whole bunch and you'll figure out if this is for you or not.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with this, Troy? What's wrong with this?
Nothing. Okay. So you were in Austin, but you didn't grow up in Austin.
No, I grew up in a really small town in Northeast Texas, east of Dallas, Fort Worth. So like probably an hour from you.
Okay. How did you get to Austin? Was that like a college thing or?
Yeah, I went down to San Marcos.
Okay.
And I hung out for a weekend and was like, well,
this is it.
I think I have found my home. New Braunfels had a great music scene. Austin, of course. San Marcos was right in the middle.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be around all of that. The Hill Country was awesome. There was a lot of great music coming out of there, still is.
Yeah. And
it just felt like a good place to center. My first week at Texas State University, I went to Cheatham Street Warehouse on a Wednesday night.
Yeah. Signed
up for Kent Finley's songwriter night.
Yeah. That was it.
And you wait around and then they call your name and you get up and you do a song or two and then cool. See you next week if you want to come back. So doing little things like that really got me into feeling comfortable showing people these songs. Cause for years I didn't tell anybody I wrote songs. I just had these songs. So, that's how it all started. And then I just stayed in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talk to me a little bit about, so you moved to Nashville.
Yep.
Do you have a publishing deal at that point or are you?
Yeah. So I started to meet people and that conversation started to come around and I was making records and touring a lot. So, I think it made sense to them. Like, hey, this guy's going to write some songs that he's probably going to record. And who knows what happens next, right? And then in 2012, I did a deal here in town at a company called Hori Pro and then wrote there for 4 years. And that was my first, this is legit. I'm getting paid to write songs, which was crazy then and it's crazy now when you really like think about it. But that was when I first got thrown into just the mix of Music Row and meeting people.
Yeah, and like writing 3, 4, 5 days a week. And
for sure.
I loved that. That was one of the first places I started writing at consistently. I loved that office over there in Berryhill. It was very special.
So we were at the McFadden building on the Row.
Okay.
And then it moved to Berryhill. So
Gotcha.
I watched it sort of be in two different places. But at Horry Pro, that when I signed in were two really veteran, amazing songwriters that everyone knows, Phil O'Donnell, Phil Billy, and Dean Dillon. And for me, growing up in Texas, I knew their songs, and especially Dean's, having the majority of them been recorded by George Strait. So I was like, this is going to be a sweet situation to, if anything, hang around, watch, try to soak it up, learn. And ultimately I did end up writing with those guys, and it was a dream come true, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, great company that gave me a shot. I'm super thankful for. And then I've just sort of taken it and run from there.
Yeah. So when you moved here, did you still continue to travel back and forth, or were you pretty all in on Nashville?
Yeah.
What was
I did the back and forth for a long time, for a year. So I did that deal in 2012.
Yeah.
And then I lived in Texas still. So for a year I would be back and forth. And I realized, man, I'm never at home. I'm always on an airplane, in a van, on the road. I'm never at home.
Yeah.
So that's what sort of started to, I could feel that I was in a good place and things were growing. I was starting to make some money, but I still sort of had that hole inside where I was like, I don't feel like I'm getting better. I'm not being challenged. I don't know that my music songs are getting better. It was just that comfort zone thing's not, I don't love it. So when I feel that, I know it's time for me to do something different.
Yeah.
So I kind of had reached that point, and that's what led to the decision to be here and give this a go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. It worked out pretty well.
It's working out.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things that I was thinking about on the way over here to ask you about.
Cool.
I thought it was, so you made a record in, I think it was 2016.
Yeah. I put it out in 2016. So with that first deal, I just was writing songs all the time. Right. And I sort of found a clique of people that I loved creating with and making music with. And then it started to really, be exciting to think about the idea of possibly making another record.
Yeah.
And I knew that hadn't left me, and, nobody was cutting those songs, you know? And I was like, well, I'll do it. This is what we do, I mean, the idea of somebody recording your song was so foreign, even at that point of having a deal. It just felt like a pipe dream.
Yeah.
So I was very much like, well, man, I lived these songs, or these songs are me. I'll go sing them. And so I made a record in 2014 and 15 that I worked on for the better part of 2 years, and then started to put out music in like the end of 2015, 2016, and made a record called RX.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, a third record, but really, I felt like the first record in a lot of ways, because it was like I was really comfortable in who I am, what I do, my own shoes. It was like, oh, I'm starting to really like get the hang of this.
Yeah.
And then, some people heard the record and were kind enough to bring me in and talk about, what do you want to do with this record? And we discussed with different people around town a record deal opportunities, but it's just it was a different time, and that never really added up and made sense. And so I independently put out the RX record, and I almost didn't. And then looking back, I'm really grateful for it. Dude. There's not a lot of weeks I go by where somebody doesn't bring that record up or talk about it.
Dude, that record changed my life, man.
Oh man, thank you.
I mean,
it changed mine too. I mean,
that was when I was moving to town. Yeah, 2016, and I mean, it was that record, RX, and then Marin had that EP out,
right?
And I think maybe Ryan Hurd had put out a few songs.
Yeah. We all did a show together, the three of us,
Really?
at the Basement East.
Oh my gosh.
Which was kind of a showcase show.
Yeah.
And I went on, and then Ryan played, and then Marin.
Yeah.
And we all watched Marin and went, okay, she's going to be fine. But it was awesome. Like,
yeah. Well, it's such a great record, and it's so, the first thing that comes to mind is like a very cohesive record, which I think is actually like hard to do.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, it's so stylistically like, it is you. I don't know how else to describe that. I don't know anyone else that could have made a record like that.
That's a great thing to hear.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to take all the credit for that. You know, the reason that record sounds and it is what it is really because of Jeremy Spillman and Ryan Tyndall and myself.
Yeah.
Those guys were willing to put in the work and work with me and help write songs and really bring my writing up, you know, to par. And I think I finally started to go, oh, this is what the difference in an okay song or a good song and that maybe a great song is.
Yeah.
And so I give those guys full credit. I asked them to produce that project. And I did that because I really loved working with the both of them. And I don't think at that point they had maybe written some songs, but had never worked on a project together.
Yeah.
So I went, this makes sense to me. I like you. I like you. Let's just figure this out. What I didn't think is that we would do that off and on for like the span of 2 years, which is crazy now to look at it. Like, I mean, people are turning songs in a week now. I mean, I ran around this town for 2 years, really dreaming and thinking on that record. So, you know, I think good things take time, and maybe there's some weight in that. Why that record still holds up, I don't know. It was very well received with the people that heard it.
Yeah.
But it's still a relatively unknown record, I think, in the grand scheme of things, which is also amazing for me because, you know, when you hear somebody go, hey, I found this record and I really like it, or you see a message or comment or something, it's great. But like in music in Nashville, this was the height of FGL. This was like, Cruise was smoking up the charts, right? So like, that was the bro country thing was really popping off. And I was kind of making my little alt country, I don't even know, thing.
Yeah.
So it's cool to me to look and go, there were all these different people making different things around town. And that doesn't change. That's still happening today.
No doubt.
So,
but it was and still is like so potent in the songwriting community. I think a lot of people,
I think that, you know, that's the conversation I continue to have with either young artists or other writers, and which is the gift that keeps giving, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really grateful for it. I don't know who that guy was completely, but I know he believed every word he sang. No, I actually find myself on a lot of nights just sitting there in my place playing through those songs.
Yeah.
And sort of reconnecting with it because it's been, I mean, I'm coming up on 10 years or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy to say out loud. But,
that is crazy. And I saw, I guess Midland just cut.
Yeah.
Is it called Vegas or?
It's called Vegas. Yeah. So this is the first song that's been recorded by somebody else off of that particular record.
Insane.
Which is wild. It's amazing. It sort of goes to show the people around this town that still love that project. And like, you know, we talked about that song, and then now for it to be recorded like 7 years later or whatever it's been. So they did a great job and just put it out. I'm really proud of it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Was that like a conversation y'all had, or did they just cut it and you heard about it one day? Or
their A&R team really is the one that got it to them.
Yeah.
Big Machine. Shout out to everybody there and thank you.
Yeah.
Carly Strickland, she pitched that, I think, but we really had, you know, we had this version that I did on the record, which is like a halftime version. And we also have a double time version of that demo.
Okay.
Where Tyndall's singing it and he crushed it and it just sounds amazing. But I don't know. I think they heard that version. So it's like not quite, it doesn't feel as slow, but it's the same song. But yeah, you just can't give up on songs. You know, and especially if they're good. I try not to. especially the ones I find myself coming back to, because that means there's something there that's probably, I like to think we know a few things about what we do. And if you're coming back to it, that means there's something there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would just sometimes take a little trip down memory lane of
down RX lane.
Yeah. And I was listening to it when I was skiing. I don't know. It was earlier this year. And dude, it's just great. It's still great. It's amazing. It is an amazing piece of art. So another thing I wanted to ask you about was, I guess you recently, I don't know, within the last few months had your first number one.
Yeah.
Pretty Little Poison.
Pretty Little Poison.
Warren Zeiders.
If you hang around, they'll give you one. If you keep fighting. No, I'm kidding. Warren Zeiders, man, he's a force. Like he is doing it. He's changing the game in his own way.
Yeah.
I was grateful enough to get in the room with him early on and really just be myself and talk to him about music and what he likes. And he was totally himself. And then our other writer, Jared Kime, same thing. I've loved working with him.
Dude, he's so talented.
We've written a lot of great songs that I love together.
Yeah.
And so that was a fun day because it just happened, you know.
Yeah.
Just got in there, and Jared may feel differently. I think he probably knew more than I did, but I just remember thinking like, I love this song. And we got a great recording, and Warren sang his face off, and I didn't have a clue what would happen.
When did y'all write it to when, like, I guess
that's a good question.
The single,
like a couple of years for sure.
Okay.
I have to go back and look.
So it was like way early in Warren's kind of start in Nashville. Or whatever.
It was right when he was he was getting thrown in the mix of co-writing and stuff too.
Yeah.
But he gravitated to it and he's just sold it night after night after night. I mean,
yeah.
I see the videos, and then I've gone to the shows, and I'm like, this is insane. These people are singing their hearts out. So it's pretty amazing to be a part of. And you grow up wanting to be a part of a moment like that. And so for me to attain it, you know, and be like, okay, that is what that's like. And that feels like, I sort of feel like I did it. Icing on the cake.
Well, dude, so like, tell me, what does it feel like? Cause you're 8, 9, 10 years into your journey at this point.
Yeah.
And then like it starts cooking up the chart. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's that classic saying that, you know, there are decades when nothing happens. And then there are weekends or weeks when decades happen.
Yeah.
I feel like that is what happened. Is a lot of slugging it out, writing a tremendous amount, honing in and fine tuning what you do.
Yeah.
And then one day it all clicks for 3 minutes. And then, you know, there's a real response with fans.
Yeah.
And then there's a response at radio, and then it's not yours anymore.
Right.
It's gone. And so whatever you thought it was, it is not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's now the people. So it feels great. I mean, I was happy to see it make the journey all the way to number one, because great songs are released in the world every day that maybe don't have a chance at radio or don't get the love they should have.
Yeah.
There's all these reasons, but there's so many people all working towards the same goal of trying to get this artist or this song heard.
Right.
And the town operates on it. So it's special. I mean, nothing is lost on me about that journey.
It's like,
it takes a village.
It's basically like to get a number one song is like sort of like a minor miracle.
Absolutely.
Of how many things have to go exactly the right way.
Absolutely.
To get it all the way. What did you, when do you find out? It's like Saturday night, Friday night? Like when do you find out that it's going to go number one?
I think I got a text sometime Saturday or Sunday saying like it had gone.
So what did you do?
I didn't have any, I didn't do any massive celebration. I just sort of like breathed in and breathed that out. Like, really felt it. Because I just know so much about how hard this is and how many people are great at what they do that, may may experience it many times, may not.
Yeah.
So I just sort of had a moment of gratefulness and prayer and thank you.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. And so the other thing is like, it didn't feel like a song that just went to radio and up a chart. It felt like it really connected. Like it felt like, you know, people had it on playlists, you know, I would hear it at places, which is another wild feeling.
Yeah. You just at a bar, it comes on.
Yeah. Like it's like I'm familiar with this, but it's at the same time, it's so unfamiliar to me to experience a song because it was one day of your life, one day.
Yeah.
And so it sort of doesn't feel real or doesn't feel like I said, it's yours. It's no longer yours. But I just sort of took it in and I'm still taking it in. I mean, you know, going to the show has been fun because watching people sing that in that moment or like he's been great about having everybody sing, you know, sort of a choir moment, sing that last chorus. So it's great. It's cool.
That's awesome. Did you feel like after that happened, like, did it change your life? Like, did the nature of your writes change or anything like that?
I think, no, I don't think it changed a lot for me in the sense of the way I felt validated, maybe.
Yeah.
Felt like I'd done my job, but I still the same, you know, we're still showing up the next day with somebody else with a blank sheet of paper going like, I got to do this all over again, you know? So that's a bit of a daunting feeling. The number one blues is a funny thing because I didn't understand that. And I kind of do a little more, but like, I think it's just your whole life of creating to get to that moment. And then you get to that moment, you're like, what now? Oh, I do it all over again.
Got to do it again.
Yeah. So that's cool. But I felt like I needed to thank everybody involved. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, dude, I mean, it was really cool because, you know, as your friend, like it felt like the whole town was so stoked for you.
I would say, all right. Yeah, we did. I was talking to a couple of friends about this. I think that the funny thing is now in the day of social media, so many great friends and people I've met over the years, they came out to sort of post things that were very supportive and like, happy to see this. This is my good friend. And it was a big deal. But it was also like, I would imagine it's sort of like the day you die and you're no longer here and there's all these posts about you and you're like, you know, reading it. I'm like, I'm still here. No, I didn't die. But no, I felt a lot of love, man. I was sort of showered with, and I think that's the community because everyone knows, like everybody's in this to grind it out and figure it out. And
man.
And you know, for whatever reason, I felt a lot of love. So it was funny. I was like, I didn't die, guys. I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are, you know, such a very loved person. And I don't think I've ever met anyone that's ever had anything bad to say about you.
Oh, they're out there. They're out there. Don't be fooled.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so cool, man. I'm so happy for you, for real. And you know, I don't know. It felt like I was winning somehow through, man, you know, I don't know.
I mean, that's how you do feel. I mean, that is one feeling I felt was like, this isn't a win just for me. This is a win for Jared. This is a win for Warren. This is a win for his label, his A&R, his management, like other co-writers that I work with all the time that know like how hard it is, you know, or other musicians. And you do feel that. You feel like it's, you know, there's a win for a lot of people, a lot of years of other people putting their, you know, hard work into me, old managers, booking agents, publishers.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I was thinking about because you don't want to think too much about yourself. So you got to think about others. But I was sort of overwhelmed with that feeling.
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed with the journey of it all. Thinking about how many people booked a gig or booked a ride or, you know, had something kind to say that got me into this or that. And so, it did feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I try to pass on through doing this podcast is like, it's the journey, man. It's like
100%.
The number one is like a moment for everyone to celebrate.
Totally.
And it just sort of highlights the journey, all those people along the way that supported you and are rooting for you. And like, you just, you know, they're there, but you don't always feel it, I'm sure. I mean,
no. And I mean, I had somebody say something early to me kind of about, there are people that you have this chip on your shoulder, this gut reaction to, I want to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
And then I heard someone say, no, man, it's not about who you're proving wrong. It's who you're proving right.
Yeah.
People that were there, people that put their name on the line and did the work. You want to prove them right about you.
Yeah.
And I think that is so true. And that really shook me because I was, especially with that journey of this particular song. But it is one of those, it's like a big gig. You find yourself reflecting. Yeah. It's like a holiday or something. You're like, oh yeah, think about my whole life before this birthday. Yeah.
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 Yep. I know. And I think you're so right. Like there was a time a couple years ago where I was just fueled by this, like proving everyone wrong. Like I would almost call it like a rage fuel.
100%.
And that fuel became very toxic for me. Like it was literally making me sick.
It is a driver though. It will make you get up in the morning and get some stuff done.
It will, but it won't sustain you.
No.
And I had to do,
it's not good for you.
I had to do a lot of work to just like go like,
sure.
Hey, it's all right. You just like, you got to let it go.
Yeah.
There's tons of people that are in your corner. And even the people you think that maybe aren't in your corner, oftentimes they're still in your corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just, I mean, that emotional labor, you know, is an important part of just kind of growing up for me. That's how I felt. It's like, all right, you got to quit holding on to this stuff. It's just,
well, lest we not forget, we are in the business of emotions. That is what this is. So for you to feel emotional about anything, it makes sense. The highs and the lows, right?
Absolutely. What are you, I got a couple more questions for you. Are you, what are you looking forward to next? What are you excited about right now?
That's a good question. I mean, I've found so much joy in working with young artists.
Yeah.
Who are trying to find their way because, man, I was there and I knew nothing. And I still am figuring things out. But I wanted so bad to call someone up or to like ask them about how does this work or what does it mean, publishing deal, and how does this work with the gigs or these songs. And I just didn't. It took so long for me to get that. So trying to be that for other people has been awesome, especially because, man, artists seem to be getting younger and younger. Maybe I'm just getting older, but you know, with the way that social media is working and like kids are doing I mean, I wrote with a kid the other day. I was like, he's still in college. Yeah. You know, I say kid, I mean that with all the respect. Of course. He's a young guy. And so I've enjoyed sort of being there for them and helping them with whatever. Yeah. If it's just the song, that's been amazing. But if they have any other questions, I'm happy to sort of navigate. Or you should call so-and-so, or you should talk to so-and-so.
Yeah.
Because that's all we've been doing is gathering some information for the last 10, 15
What am I going to do with all this?
Yeah. So helping people is great. If it helps. So I've enjoyed doing that. I still love writing songs, man. Like, I enjoy doing that as much as I can. And then now just sort of being more working with artists, it's sort of in the role that like a Jeremy or Ryan helped me. I've enjoyed doing that with other people. And so if it means working on their project, I would love to, in whatever capacity that is.
Yeah. Just helping people find their sound and
or even just connecting people. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to be involved or do any production or whatever, but that's been fun. I'm sort of looking forward to just embracing my 40s.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm pretty close with my family and friends, so I put a lot of time there.
Yeah. And
just life, because what do you write about, man? You got to live your life first. So, that's what we can do to bring in the writing room is that. So I'm just looking forward to living, paying the bills a little easier because of a song on the radio is always nice, right?
Yeah.
But then when you like sort of average it over the last 12 years of not making anything, you're sort of right there with everybody. Just an average guy.
Yeah.
So no, that's been fun. I'm trying to constantly sort of push myself to learn new things. Lately I've been doing piano lessons, which is funny.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And learn new add new tools to the tool belt.
I had a piano for about 3 months and I would practice.
Yeah.
And felt like my brain was on fire. I felt like all this stuff was like connecting in my brain. I loved it. And then we moved and I moved the piano and it broke.
Oh, well, you got to get it fixed, man. Come on.
I know, but this was like 2.5 years ago. So I should have gotten one by now. I just never did. But now you're kind of making me think I might need to go buy a piano.
I started on drums and I got pretty average at that. And then I moved to guitar because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty average at that. And now I'm trying to be average.
You're pretty good at guitar, dude.
You know what I mean, though? Yeah. Like, but anything that unlocks feels like it unlocks a new world, a new territory, makes you think differently or write differently or musically.
I think as a songwriter, that was a thing for me on the piano. It's like, I'll pick up a new instrument all the time. Ben's got a nylon guitar in his studio and I'll go in there and I'll be like, dude, there's a lot of songs in here. Like you just, you form a bond with an instrument.
Oh yeah. I mean, anything that makes a different noise or puts you in like a different zone is great.
My last question for you, if you could go back and send a message to younger you, just getting started on his journey, what would you tell him?
Yeah, I would just sort of encourage a younger version of me to like, understand that all these things you're doing, these people you're meeting along the way, these songs you're writing, they're all seeds.
Yeah.
And if you plant those seeds and take care of them as nature has taught us, like you'll look back one day and be like, turn around. And that's an amazing thing that is sort of, flourished.
Yeah.
And I would just sort of remind me that, hey, all of this is part of a journey and a reason. And so stick with that, realize that, and these seeds will turn into something amazing someday. I would also just sort of say, don't be afraid to push yourself and try different things sonically or musically or, songwriting, just write a different, do whatever kind of scares you is usually a good thing. Yeah. If it challenges you, I think, I talked about complacency a little bit, like that's where good things go to die, Mm-hmm. So I think just encouraging myself to keep pushing it. But it's all going to work out fine. That old chestnut, I would remind him, because for a lot of years, you're just you're in it. You're in the thick of it. You're in the trenches and you can't see that. And there are nights when you question it, everything. Mm-hmm. And I would just sort of be that guy at the bar that goes, hey man, it's all going to be okay. Yeah. Here's a beer. Chill out. Just relax. And that, that you're on fire when you're in your 20s and you can't help it.
Yeah.
You want to do everything all the time and you want to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
But it just, life shows you how to live it if you just slow down, a little bit and relax.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would just encourage myself to chill a little.
Yeah. That's great advice, man. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. And, I am, dude, you're one of the good ones, man.
Oh man. You too. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, guys. That's it. That's the pod. See you later. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. If you want to submit a question for one of our Q&A episodes, you can do so at tenuetown.com. We would love it if you would join. the Tenured community, which just means we'll send you updates via email about stuff we got going on. And of course, please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch this thing, we appreciate you so much. See you next week.